What up, dude bros? I'm Frank. This is a video review of the Nerf rival Hypnos. The Hypnos is a spring-powered, pump-action, magazine-fed blaster in the rival series. Let's get into the review. Included is the blaster, 2 12-round magazines, detached rail, 2 magazine holders, 24 rival rounds, and the instructions. External overview of the Hypnos, starting up at the front. Of course, it does not have an in-strike attachment muzzle, so you cannot put on your barrel extensions. Above the muzzle is a tactical rival rail. There's also a second on the side right here. Above that is this little orange piece, which is not labeled in the instructions and has no discernible purpose in my mind. Doesn't appear to be like an iron sight, so I think it's just a piece of weird cosmetic plastic, which is strange for a rival blaster. Anyways, moving on, down here, this black thing is the priming handle. The Hypnos is spring-powered, so to prime, you do that. The prime weight is surprisingly light for a rival blaster. It's also very smooth and it feels mechanically solid. It doesn't have a gritty feel or mechanical whine or anything. It's a comfortable, very smooth grip. And on the left-hand side, we have the access door. To open that, you can just pull on it. That allows you to get your fingers in there to clear out any jams. I did not have any jams and malfunctions firing the Hypnos, but it's there just in case. In my experience, these jams typically occur when you use really crummy darts or like worn out balls. Getting up to the magazine well, the Hypnos includes 2 12-round magazines. To release the magazine, you can pull down on the magazine release right here. And the magazine well is spring-loaded, so when you do hit the mag release, the mag is ejected out a little bit, which is nice because it makes your reload a little bit smoother and easier to do fast. The Hypnos includes 2 12-round magazines, but it's compatible with the shorter Apollo mag. I wouldn't say there's a good reason to use the shorter magazines because you don't have like a lower profile blaster, like a shorter mag popping out of the bottom, but it's nice that it's compatible just in case. The magazine well and the reloading ergonomics are very similar to the rival Atlas. It's definitely not traditional compared to every other blaster out there because it's a top loading, almost a P90 style reload. It's a little bizarre, but once you get used to it, it can be pretty quick. For example, pew pew. Probably helps if they have ammo. The magazine release is located only on the left-hand side. It's not on the right, but it's easy enough to hit with your thumb without taking your hand off the grip for a pretty quick reload. However, if you're a left-handed shooter, it's more inconvenient for you, so I wouldn't say this is a fully ambidextrous blaster. You're gonna have to break the grip to move your thumb up to release the magazine. The magazine release and the magazine configuration are bizarre and they take a little getting used to, but once you get used to it, it's not terribly inconvenient and you can reload pretty quickly. Moving on, below the magazine release is the trigger safety. It's located on the left and the right-hand side. In the down position, you're safe. You're not able to pull the trigger, then you move it up and you're able to fire. On the left side of the blaster right here, we have the unjamming button. That allows you to reprime after you've already primed to clear out a jam or malfunction. But to restate, I did not experience any jams or malfunctions with the Hypnos. Moving up a little bit, we have a hole in the shell. It's also on the right-hand side, and that's a priming indicator. When you prime back the blaster, you can see a little bit of orange, and after you fire, it releases, letting you know if you're primed or not. Down to the trigger release is pretty standard. This blaster does not have slam fire. Moving down to the grip. Now the grip is in line with other rival blasters, which are bigger and more comfortable for older people like me. But a smaller, younger Nerfer would not have a hard time putting their hand around this one. And at the bottom of the grip, we have a sling or lanyard mount. Now back to the stock, which is the first use of hardcore tactics in the rival series. Thank you so much, Hasbro, for implementing your tactics in the rival series. Previously, it was like no fuss, all about the win, and because stocks aren't super functional in our hobby, they just didn't include any, but I always whined about that. So I am stoked to see a folding stock on a rival blaster. This is obviously in the outward position. And to collapse, you can press the orange button right here, and that unlocks it, and then it swivels and locks into place. And it's great to see that in the collapsed form, it doesn't interfere with the ergonomics of the blaster, so it's not like only a storage mode. You can actually play a Nerf game successfully with it in the collapsed form. As you can see, my hand can manipulate the trigger and the safety and everything without any fuss. It's not an impedance on that motion. So if you want to hip fire all day, every day, you might get a little laser sight and do that just fine. It clicks into place pretty well, so if you're in a normal game, the stock isn't just gonna randomly open up. To make it swivel back, you don't have to push any unlock button, you can just pull on it. It doesn't take a tremendous amount of force to do that. I think they struck the balance of that locking strength very well. In my testing procedure, I intentionally kind of moved the blaster quickly and stuff to see if the stock would unfold on its own because that can be annoying, and I didn't experience that at all. And when you do want to expand it, it doesn't take too much force. Just open it up like that. And when the stock hits the full position, that lock clicks into place, which is a more firm lock. You can't just like pull on the stock to shut it. You do have to press the unlock button right there to unlock. So to summarize, the stock is designed very well to use in the expanded or the collapsed form. Either way, it'll work pretty well. And because it's a folding stock and not a collapsible stock, of course, it's not going to collapse on you accidentally. So you can use this shoulder stock to prime it very comfortably by shoving the stock into your shoulder to brace it on your shoulder to prime instead of your right hand. That is an external overview of the rival Hypnos. Again, to fire, you insert a loaded magazine, you pump it back, and you fire. Let's see it out on the firing range. Operating the rival Hypnos was pretty fun. Now this analysis might get a little too detailed because I was experiencing some issues with this blaster. So if you're a stickler for performance, pay attention. The rival Hypnos, when it operated under perfect conditions, operates just fine. I didn't experience any jams or malfunctions due to mechanical failure, but the blaster design is in fact susceptible to human error because of how this little loading system works. So you can prime it back and prime successfully, but still end up short stroking the priming mechanism. It's this susceptibility to human error that led me to dry fire many times and also shoot just really weak shots, like 35 FPS weak. So it does not feature consistent loading, so it doesn't shoot consistently. But to restate, under perfect conditions, if you're super deliberate with your prime action, you pump it all the way back and then a little bit more after you've primed it, it's unlikely to jam. But if you're trying to go fast, which you know me, I always try to go fast, you can short stroke the chambering mechanism to, fart out those darts really inconsistently. So in well-controlled testing conditions, it works just fine, but under what I would consider battle conditions, it sometimes fails to chamber and sometimes chambers in this weird way that makes it shoot like 35 or 40 FPS. To measure the firing velocity, I put it up on my chronograph and I achieved an average velocity of 91 feet per second. Please note this average is of normal shots, not the ones that farted out. I did have a few shots that I had to delete from the average that shot about 35 or 40 FPS. So when it performs properly, as it should, it fires about at the rival par, maybe a little bit softer than some other rival blasters right now, but not enough to make you get outgunned by somebody shooting at about 100 FPS. That 90 FPS is pretty competitive to other rival blasters. That's the objective information on the rival Hypnos. Now to my personal opinion, which is kind of a two-sided opinion. First, when I heard about the Hypnos, I was stoked. I was just waiting for a pump action traditional magazine-fed blaster in the rival series. I absolutely love that they included the tactical folding stock. I just think that's awesome. That's something the rival series, in my opinion, totally needed. I get the fast-paced tag stocks are useless, but come on, we all want to be tactical and use stuff that feels nice in our hands. This blaster feels fantastic. The magazine system, and especially striking the magazine release with your thumb like this, takes a little getting used to, but once you adapt, it works just fine. And it really is a slim, low-profile way to hold a magazine instead of having one sticking out at the bottom of the blaster like this. The prime weight is pretty soft and it's a very smooth action, so overall ergonomically, the blaster, it feels nice to hold and it's fun to use. I also dig that it comes with two 12-round mags, but you can also use the shorter magazines. The Zeus, for example, used this horizontal magazine system, but you couldn't use a 7-round mag in that blaster. So if you have these laying around, maybe emergency mags, I would recommend the 12-round mags, but it's nice that you can use these just in case. So I really like the concept, or what Hasbro was trying to build with the Hypnos. I totally dig this type of blaster. And those are my pros, the things I'm excited about the Hypnos. Now to my two cons. First and foremost, the inconsistent chambering makes this very difficult to use, and I would hesitate to use this in a battle because sometimes you dry fire and sometimes the dart just farts out. And like I said, if you're a robot or you're operating the blaster very deliberately and like slowly, it does work just fine. But let's get real, when you get shot at, you start to do stuff like a little bit quicker and you cut corners, and that's just kind of efficiency. And when you do that, you end up having chambering problems and consistency issues, which are kind of a big deal. I could have a lemon or an inconsistent blaster where every other Hypnos feeds just fine. I'm not sure. Some of you guys complain about that when I say stuff like that. You say, Coop, if you have a lemon, buy another one. What if that one's a lemon? I would need it like 50 or 100 models to really determine what an average blaster is. And I can't really buy 50 of every blaster to find out what the average blaster is. So I can report inconsistencies with this model, but unfortunately I can't tell you if yours is going to be just like mine. And I looked into the mechanism to see really what's causing this chambering issue. And like I said, it is human error. Technically, the mechanics of this are sound. A product being susceptible to human variation is not necessarily mechanical failure, and I'm not saying this is a mechanical failure. But priming the Hypnos, of course, primes back the spring, but at the very end of the prime, the little chute here that collects the ball kind of flips up just in this last little half-inch motion right here. So if you prime back just far enough to actually prime and you don't make that little chute flip up with that extra little motion right here, that is what's causing the chambering malfunction. It's something of a mechanical misalignment. I think you could get rid of the human error if you make the catch mechanism catch a little bit later to force the human to prime it to that stage, instead of expecting the human to prime and then prime a little bit further to make that chute open up to collect the ball. I assure you I'm not blabbing on for the sake of blabbing on. I'm trying to point out the issue, so if you buy Hypnos, you can better understand what's going on to hopefully use your blaster more consistently. So this chambering issue is a big deal to me personally, but I tried to elaborate on it because for some people in their playstyles, it's not going to be a big deal. If you deliberately slow fire every time, you're going to have a good time. But I got to go fast, brah, so... So enough on that. That's my biggest gripe or my biggest con of the Hypnos. Another one that's pretty insignificant is that these only come in the blue and red. I thought the Phantom Corp series was going to replace all of the blue and red so everybody didn't have to stock two different colors. And I think the white and black looks super cool. And if you're not hardcore on one team like I'm blue and Drax red, if you're not like totally on one team all the time, white lets you change colors. On that note, all of my blue and red jokes are just jokes. I'm not like aggressive towards people that like a different color. That's absolutely absurd. But if you're holding a red blaster and I'm holding a blue one, I will start shooting at you no matter what. Because that's where we nerf to pew pew. Phew. So to recap, I'm stoked that Hasbro came out with the Hypnos. I really like the ergonomics and the feel. Using the blaster is pretty fun when it works consistently, or if you're using it slowly so it does work consistently. I love that they're adding the folding stock. I think this is a bigger deal for the practical use and more accurately the storage of the blaster rather than the tactical use of the blaster. I personally won't be nerfing with something in the folding position. I just don't need to do that. But it's great to be able to fold it to then put it away and put it into a smaller bin, because that's a pretty large blaster. So hopefully my review covered all the details so you can make the purchase decision for yourself. If you're interested in buying a Hypnos, I'll put a buy link in the description box below. That concludes this video review. Thanks so much for watching, bros, and as always, stay tactical.